Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're getting you ready for back to school in Soweto.
Ooh, that's fun.
It is, and we have been listening to the Soweto Schools Podcast,
Okay.
and they have some really great advice to make this year a little bit smoother for you,
I like it.
especially for those essentials,
Yeah.
uniform, stationery, and transport.
Okay.
But they also had a really cool tip for parent-teacher communication.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we'll definitely dive into that.
I'm intrigued.
All right, well, let's just jump right in with uniforms
Okay.
because it's no secret that they can get really expensive.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the Soweto Schools Podcast had a couple of good ideas for keeping it budget friendly.
What were they thinking?
Well, first of all, take stock of what your child might already have
Oh, right.
from last year.
From last year. Okay.
Maybe the blazer still fits.
Yeah,
Maybe they didn't grow out of their tie.
makes sense.
Just little things like that.
That's a good point.
Then they also mentioned secondhand uniform sales,
Oh, wow.
which I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And they said that a lot of the schools in Soweto
Okay.
and even some thrift shops
Oh, cool.
will have these pre-loved uniforms,
Nice.
and you can get them for a fraction of the cost.
That's awesome, especially like with how expensive things are right now. It's a great idea.
Yeah. And, it's like that community approach where
Yeah.
everybody's kind of looking out for each other,
Exactly.
and it's a little bit more sustainable too.
I like it.
And then they also had a good reminder about making sure the uniforms actually fit
Oh, right.
because kids grow so fast,
Oh, for sure.
So it might be worth buying slightly larger sizes
Okay.
for shoes especially
Yeah.
so that they last a bit longer.
Good point. Good point.
All right, so let's move on to stationery.
Yeah.
Now, those lists,
Oh, yeah.
they can be a mile long.
They are.
And I'm always convinced that half the stuff never even gets used.
I know, me too.
So do they have any advice on that?
Yeah. What did they say?
You know what? They actually suggested sticking pretty closely to the schools list.
Okay.
And they said sometimes less is more,
Yeah,
saves you a lot of money and hassle.
that's true.
Did they have any other tips when it came to actually shopping for the stationery?
Yeah. What about that?
Well, bulk buying was a big one,
Okay.
especially if you have multiple kids
Right.
or, if you can get together with
Other parents. Yeah.
some other parents in your community
Yeah.
to buy things in bulk.
That's a good idea.
And they also said keeping an eye out for sales
Right.
throughout the year
Yeah.
can help.
Okay.
And then they had this one little gem
Okay.
that I loved.
Uh-oh.
Label everything.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Label everything.
Such a good tip.
I know.
I feel like parents everywhere just went, oh,
Right.
like, why haven't I thought of this? I'm going to label everything.
All those little pencils and pens and erasers.
Oh, yeah.
Label it all.
I love it.
Speaking of saving frustration,
Yes.
they had a really interesting segment on communication books.
Okay.
Have you ever come across those?
I've heard of them,
Okay.
but I'm not really sure how they work.
Okay. Well, basically, they're like this direct line between
Oh.
home and school,
I see.
like a parent-teacher communication journal.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So how does that actually work?
Well, the child brings it back and forth.
Okay.
So they take it home.
Got it.
Parents can write notes,
Uh-huh.
ask questions,
Yeah.
see updates from the teacher,
Okay.
and then it goes back to school.
Oh, so it goes back and forth. Okay.
Yeah, and it's designed to help everybody stay on the same page
Yeah.
without needing to have a meeting
Oh,
for every little thing.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's really clever.
Especially in a busy place like Soweto.
Right,
Yeah,
where it might be hard to find time
for sure.
to actually have those face-to-face meetings.
Right.
Did they mention any specific type that they recommend?
Yeah, did they?
They did. They actually highlighted Funda Smart,
Okay.
which is a South African company
Uh-huh.
that supplies these communication books.
Cool.
And get this,
What?
they're only R30.
R30.
That's so affordable.
That's amazing.
I know.
Wow.
So I bet schools even outside of Soweto
Yeah,
would be interested in something like this.
for sure.
So if our listeners wanted to suggest this,
Right.
is Funda Smart easy to get a hold of?
Yeah. How do you find them?
Well, they actually have a website.
Okay.
It's www.fundasmart.weebly.com.
Okay.
And they're also on Facebook as Funda Smart.
Got it.
And you can even reach them on WhatsApp
Wow.
at 0814589350.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So many ways to connect.
Yeah, and they offer bulk discounts for schools.
Oh, that's perfect.
I know. So many potential uses for this.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we've tackled uniforms,
Yes.
stationery,
Uh-huh.
and even this really cool communication tool.
Yeah.
What's next on our back-to-school checklist?
Well, they brought up something super important for getting those kids to school safely and on time.
Okay.
Transport.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like Soweto, where
Right.
distances can be pretty far.
Exactly.
So you need reliable transport,
You do.
for sure.
So what did they say about that?
Well, they had some tips
Okay.
for finding trustworthy transport providers.
Yeah.
And they said to really start with your research.
Okay.
So check online reviews.
Yeah.
Ask for recommendations from other parents.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely look into things like safety records
Right.
and licensing.
Makes sense.
So you want to make sure
Yeah.
that you're comfortable
Yeah.
with whoever you choose.
Right.
But is there anything beyond those like initial checks?
Yeah, the parents should keep in mind.
They really, really recommended meeting the driver in person.
Okay.
So you can kind of get a feel for their personality.
Uh.
Confirm those pickup and drop-off times.
Yeah.
And maybe even get references from other parents
Okay.
whose kids they transport.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, especially if you've got younger children.
Right.
Building that rapport
Mm-hmm.
with the driver
Yeah,
can really help ease any anxiety
for sure.
that they might have.
Makes sense.
And I'm thinking, even with the most reliable transport,
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah.
Cars break down.
Totally.
There are unexpected delays.
Right.
So it's probably wise to have a backup plan just in case.
Always good to have a plan B.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
Uniform, stationery,
Yep.
communication books,
Yeah.
and transport. Seems like being prepared and organized
Yeah.
is key for back to school in Soweto.
Yeah, for sure.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
Okay.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into these topics and uncover more great advice from the Soweto Schools Podcast.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
All right, see you then.
See ya. It's interesting how much they talk about community
Oh, yeah?
in the Soweto Schools podcast.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's really trying to help each other out.
Definitely.
Back to school.
And speaking of support,
Yeah.
we were talking about the communication books earlier.
Right.
And they actually shared a really great story
Okay.
about how effective those books can be.
Oh, cool. What was it?
So they were talking about this parent
Okay.
who had noticed that their child's math grades had suddenly dropped.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And through the communication book,
Okay.
they were able to quickly connect with the teacher
Yeah.
and figure out that the kid was struggling with a specific concept.
I see.
So it's almost like having that direct line
Yeah.
to just troubleshoot anything
Right.
that comes up.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. And because they caught it early,
Yeah.
they were able to provide extra support at home
Right.
and work with the teacher
Yeah.
to get the kid back on track.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And they were saying it wouldn't have been so easy
No.
without that open communication.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So it really shows how those books can help bridge that gap
Mm-hmm.
between the home and the school.
Right.
And it's not just about, reporting grades.
Yeah.
It's about actually being able to address those concerns
Right.
in a timely manner
Yeah.
and working together to find solutions.
I like it.
And it benefits both sides.
Yeah.
Because the teacher's getting these valuable insights
Yeah.
into what's going on in the child's home environment.
Uh-huh.
And the parent is staying informed about what's happening in the classroom.
I like it. Win-win.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm definitely becoming a fan of these communication books.
Yeah.
All right. So we've covered uniforms.
Yeah.
We've done stationery. We've
Mhm.
talked about communication.
Yep.
But before we move on from transport,
Okay.
you mentioned
Yeah.
that parents should meet with the driver in person.
Right.
Are there any red flags
Oh, yeah.
that they should be looking out for
That's a good question.
during that meeting?
I would say inconsistencies in communication.
Great.
Like if they're kind of vague
Yeah.
about their schedule or their routes or
Yeah.
like not super upfront about their safety procedures, those would be kind of red flags for me.
Okay. And what about you mentioned asking other parents for recommendations.
Yeah.
So should we also be looking out for any negative feedback
Oh, for sure.
from the community?
Definitely if you're hearing negative things
Yep.
from other parents,
Right.
that's a sign.
Okay. So trust your gut.
Always trust your gut,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to your kids.
If something feels off,
Yeah.
it's better to keep looking.
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And even with the best transport,
Right.
unexpected things can happen.
They do.
That's why it's so important to have that backup plan.
It is.
Okay, so to recap,
Yes.
we talked about being prepared with uniforms and stationery, having that reliable transport.
Yeah.
And we dug into the benefits
Yeah.
of communication books. What else should parents keep in mind
That's a good question.
as they're navigating this back to school season?
It's important to remember that every child is different.
Oh, yeah.
So what works for one
Right.
might not work for another.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think the key is to be flexible, adaptable, and most importantly,
Yeah.
listen to your kid.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
It's easy to get so caught up in the logistics
Totally.
that we kind of forget
Right.
that our kids are the ones actually going through this transition.
Exactly. Yeah. So check in with them.
Okay.
Ask how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Address any anxieties they might have.
Yeah.
A little empathy goes a long way.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's about creating that supportive and positive environment
Yeah.
where they feel comfortable
Right.
sharing their thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about academics. It's their social and emotional development too.
Right.
So encourage them to make new friends.
Yeah.
Try new activities and embrace all the new challenges
Right.
and opportunities.
They come with a new school year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about nurturing their growth as like well-rounded individuals,
I like that.
not just students.
Yes.
So we talked about being prepared.
Yes.
We talked about fostering that open communication. We talked about really making our children's well-being a priority.
Right.
What's like the one thing
Yeah.
you hope people take away
Good question.
from this back-to-school deep dive?
You know, I think a successful back-to-school experience isn't just about checklists and logistics.
Right.
It's about building those strong relationships.
Yeah.
Having that open communication and creating a supportive environment
Right.
where our kids can actually thrive.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, and you're not alone in this journey.
Right.
There's a whole community of parents and educators who are going through the same things.
Yeah.
So reach out. Share your experiences.
Yeah.
Support each other.
We're all in this together.
We are.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Cool.
So we've talked about open communication
Yes.
being essential for a good school year.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like
Right.
after that initial back-to-school excitement is over?
Well, it's about kind of shifting from those one-off meetings
Right.
to a more consistent and ongoing dialogue.
I see.
Think of it as a partnership
Okay.
where you're both invested
Yeah.
in the success of your child.
Makes sense. So how do we make this happen?
Yeah, how do you do that?
We talked about communication books
Right.
being a good tool,
They are.
but what are some other ways
Yeah.
to kind of keep those lines of communication open?
Well, first of all, make that communication book work for you.
Right.
So don't just glance at it.
Right.
You really want to engage with it.
Okay.
Respond to the teacher's notes. Ask questions if you need clarification.
Yeah.
And don't hesitate to write your own notes
Okay.
if you have any observations or concerns.
So it's a two-way street.
It is.
Don't just wait
Right.
for them to reach out.
Be proactive.
Be proactive. Yeah. And, it's not just about the book.
Okay.
School events are a great opportunity
Yeah.
to connect with teachers
Yeah,
in a more relaxed setting.
definitely.
So, try volunteering at a school event
Okay.
or going to a parent-teacher meeting.
Okay.
These can all help you build those relationships.
So it's about showing that you're invested and you're present
Right.
in your child's school life.
It is. And sometimes those informal interactions
Yeah.
are just as valuable.
Okay.
Like even just a quick hello
Right.
or a brief chat at pickup
Right.
can go a long way.
Yeah, just building that connection.
Yeah, it really does build trust and rapport.
What about those times
Yeah.
when something feels a little off?
How do you advocate for your child
Yeah.
if you're noticing something that concerns you?
Well, that's when open communication is super important.
Okay.
So if you notice a change in their behavior or
Right.
their grades drop or
Yeah.
anything that just makes you worried,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out
Okay.
to the teacher or the principal.
So it's okay to ask questions.
It's more than okay.
And speak up.
Yes, but remember, it's not about blaming anyone.
Right.
It's about working together
Right.
to find solutions.
So it's a team effort.
It is a team effort, for sure.
Everybody working towards the same goal.
Exactly. And communication isn't just about words.
Okay.
It's about paying attention to your child.
Right.
Noticing their mood,
Mm-hmm.
their energy levels,
Right.
how they talk about school.
Those are good indicators.
They are.
For sure.
They might reveal things.
Yeah.
But they're not telling you directly.
Okay. So being present and attuned.
Exactly.
Really, just to kind of wrap it all up,
Yep.
staying connected with the school
Right.
is about being proactive,
Yes.
building those relationships,
Mhm.
advocating for your child,
Mm.
and just being an observant parent.
Yeah. I like that.
So much good advice.
Oh, thank you.
We've covered so much today.
We have.
Uniforms,
Yeah.
transport communication books,
Wow.
that ongoing dialogue with
Yes.
the school. Any final words of wisdom
Ooh.
for those parents who might be feeling overwhelmed?
It's completely natural to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Back to school is a lot.
It is.
But just take a deep breath.
Okay.
You've got this,
Yeah.
a little preparation, a little organization,
Right.
open communication.
Yeah.
And you'll get through it.
We can do this.
We can. And don't forget, you're not alone.
Right?
There's a whole community out there to support you.
Right. Amazing advice to all our listeners out there.
Yes.
We wish you a smooth and successful back-to-school season.
As
Remember, stay connected,
stay engaged,
stay positive.
and good luck.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
See you next time.